My name is Anna, and 6 years ago, I entered into marriage with Oliver, believing that we shared common dreams and goals. We moved into my lavish apartment situated on the highest floor of a skyscraper, boasting a view that never failed to leave me in awe. I was the head of the financial department at a trading company, and my career was advancing rapidly. Oliver's mother, Skylar, who lived close by, frequently visited us. From the start, she expressed her disapproval of my career-focused life. "A woman's place is in the home," she would assert, her expression stern. According to her, I should be tending to my husband rather than pursuing a professional life. I maintained a polite facade, nodding along to Skylar's tirades about the responsibilities of a proper wife, although inwardly I seethed with frustration. I had been upfront with Oliver before we married that I intended to prioritize my career before we considered starting a family. He had been supportive at the time. However, as the years passed, I noticed Oliver's resolve softening under his mother's persistent influence. One evening, after a particularly demanding day at work, I returned home to find Oliver and Skylar deep in conversation at the dining table. The room fell silent upon my arrival, sending a shiver down my spine. "Anna," Oliver began, his tone strained, "we need to talk." My heart raced as I sat down, bracing for what was to come. Skylar spoke first. "Anna, dear, we're concerned about you. All this work, it's not healthy. You're neglecting your home and your husband. When will you consider having children?" Taking a deep breath to control my anger, I responded, "Skylar, Oliver, and I decided to focus on our careers first, then think about children." Oliver shifted uneasily. "Anna, maybe it's time to reconsider. We're not getting any younger, and Mom's right, the apartment's a mess, and I'm tired of takeout." I was stunned. "Oliver, are you serious? We discussed this. You know how crucial my job is to me." Skylar interjected sharply. "Is it more important than your family's?" I stood abruptly, the chair screeching against the floor. "My job is my contribution to our future, a future I thought you supported, Oliver." I stormed into our bedroom, locking the door behind me. As I lay there, staring at the ceiling, I sensed that this was only the beginning of my struggles. The next morning, I left for work before Oliver even woke up. Riding down in the elevator, I made a vow to myself not to let anyone, not even my husband, thwart my ambitions. I had invested too much to reach this point, and I was not about to relinquish my achievements. Arriving at the office early and leaving late became my routine, a testament to my resolve. My hard work did not go unnoticed. Later that day, my secretary informed me that the company president wanted to see me. Heart pounding, I made my way to his office. "Come in, Anna," Mr. Grayson greeted, his expression inscrutable. "Have a seat." As I perched on the edge of the leather chair, hands clasped nervously, he began, "I've been watching your work closely." His tone was serious, hinting at the unexpected discussions that lay ahead. I have to admit, I was overwhelmed with surprise and a sense of accomplishment when Mr. Grayson revealed the company's plans for expansion. We were to merge with a major firm from another city, and I was stunned by the news. I could hardly believe my ears when he announced his intention to promote me to lead a brand new department. Despite the excitement, he didn't mince words about the challenges ahead. The position would demand unprecedented dedication and effort, more than I had ever exerted. Contemplating the expectations of my loved ones and recalling the countless evenings I had spent analyzing financial reports, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment when my efforts contributed to the success of a project, I felt ready. "Absolutely, sir. I accept the position, and I assure you you won't be disappointed," I responded confidently. As I left the office, buoyed by a mix of anticipation and elation, thoughts of sharing this milestone with my partner spurred me on. I envisioned how this advancement could bring us closer to realizing our dreams of lavish homes and frequent global excursions. En route home, I stopped to pick up Oliver's favorite dishes from our preferred eatery, a bottle of champagne, and roses to mark this momentous occasion. Upon arriving, I found Oliver lounging casually, seemingly disinterested in the TV show blaring in the background. Eagerly, I announced my promotion, hoping to see joy in his reaction. Instead, his response was tepid, concerned more about the increase in my working hours than the opportunities this promotion might afford us. Yes, it does mean more work, but think of the benefits. We could afford our dream house and travel as we've always wanted, I explained, trying to keep the mood light and hopeful. Oliver's reaction was a mix of frustration and sadness. He lamented the lack of time we spent together, questioning the future of our relationship if my career continued to dominate. His words stung, dampening the celebratory spirit I had carried home. In a mix of hurt and confusion, I pointed out the dinner I brought, hoping to salvage the evening as a celebration. Yet, the night ended with Oliver retreating to his office, leaving me alone amidst the remnants of what was supposed to be a joyous celebration. As I sat in the quiet of our living room, the weight of my choices pressed heavily upon me, making me question the true cost of my professional success. Determined to find a balance, I resolved to hire a housekeeper to manage household chores and prepare meals, hoping this might address some of Oliver's concerns about our home life. Satisfied with this decision, I felt a temporary relief, yet the deeper issues between us remained unaddressed, hinting at more significant decisions and changes that lay ahead. 3 weeks after deciding to hire help, I returned home to a remarkably clean apartment and the comforting smell of a home-cooked meal wafting through the air. I was filled with a quiet satisfaction, anticipating Oliver's delight at the change. As soon as he entered and noticed the transformed space, I eagerly explained, I hired a housekeeper. She takes care of cleaning and cooking, hoping it would ease things for us both. However, instead of the appreciation I expected, I saw his expression darken. This is your solution? To hire someone else to fill in for you? Oliver challenged, his words cutting through my excitement. That's not fair, Oliver, I protested, feeling a mix of frustration and hurt. I'm trying to find a balance here. Balance, he scoffed. Is this what you call balance? Finding a replacement for yourself at home. What's next, Anna? I was stung by his harsh words, feeling as if he had indeed slapped me. How dare you? I hissed, my voice sharp with indignation. I'm doing everything I can to improve our life together, and this is your response? Without another word, Oliver stormed out, the door slamming shut behind him. I was left standing in our pristine kitchen, surrounded by the silent echoes of our confrontation and a dinner growing cold. In the following days, our communication dwindled to nearly nothing. I immersed myself in the demands of the upcoming corporate merger, finding solace in the familiarity of financial reports over the turmoil at home. Then, on a Saturday, I managed to keep free from work, and I attempted a new approach. I spent the morning preparing Oliver's favorite dishes, set our table with the finest china, and dressed in the gown he had gifted me on our last anniversary. When Oliver arrived, I greeted him with a hopeful smile, suggesting a quiet dinner for just the two of us. He paused, studying me for a moment, and then nodded. My heart fluttered with tentative hope. Perhaps this could be a new beginning. But just as we were about to start the meal, the doorbell rang. Puzzled, I answered it to find Skylar, a family friend, standing there. I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd drop by, she said breezily, brushing past me into the apartment. As Skylar made herself at home, monopolizing the conversation with pointed remarks about my domestic efforts and supposed lack of maternal instincts, my planned intimate dinner quickly devolved into an awkward family gathering. You know, Skylar said, refilling her wine glass, in my day, a woman knew her place was at home. We took pride in taking care of our husbands and raising our children. I excused myself under the pretext of fetching dessert, but leaned against the kitchen counter instead, my spirit deflating. Skylar's voice carried from the dining room, suggesting Oliver needed to talk some sense into me about prioritizing family over career. As I stood there, the weight of her words and the strain of our marital tensions overwhelmed me. Despite my career success and our beautiful home, doubt crept in. Had I made a grave mistake in how I balanced my life? Was the price of my ambition higher than I had anticipated? These thoughts haunted me as I prepared to face the evening, my heart heavy with uncertainty. Walking into the living room after a long day, I was taken aback by the unexpected sight before me. Scattered across the floor were baby clothes, tiny onesies, miniature socks, and even a small pair of shoes. My voice shook as I called out, "Oliver, what's all this?" Oliver appeared from the bedroom, his expression unreadable. "Oh, Mom brought those over," he explained casually. "She thought it might help you get in the mood." Confused, I picked up a small t-shirt, my hands trembling slightly. In the mood for what, exactly? For starting a family, of course, Oliver replied as if it were the most natural conclusion. "Anna, we're not getting any younger. It's time we seriously considered having children." I spent the rest of the evening silently organizing the baby's clothes, my mind in turmoil. Doubts crept in. Was I being selfish? Was my ambition putting my marriage at risk? The next morning, I woke to find more baby items strategically placed around our apartment. A rattle on the coffee table, a baby book on my nightstand, and a high chair in the kitchen. Skylar's doing. As the days passed, these items seemed to multiply, each new addition transforming our apartment into an impromptu nursery, whether I liked it or not. One evening, I returned home to find Skylar lounging on our couch, flipping through a parenting magazine. Her smile was strained as she greeted me. "Oh, Anna dear, I hope you don't mind. Oliver said I could wait for him here." I nodded, barely concealing my irritation, and retreated to the bedroom to change. When I returned, Skylar was gazing out at the city skyline. "You know, Anna," she began, not turning to face me, "a view like this is wasted on just two people. Imagine a child toddling up to this window, their little hands pressed against the glass, eyes wide with wonder." My headache intensified. "Skylar, I appreciate your concern, but Oliver and I will decide when we're ready for children." She turned sharply, her gaze piercing. "And when will that be, Anna? When you've worked yourself into an early grave? When it's too late?" Before I could respond, Oliver entered, his arms laden with groceries. Sensing the tension, he looked from Skylar to me. "Everything okay here?" he asked cautiously. Skylar's demeanor softened instantly. "Oh, everything's fine, darling. I was just having a little chat with Anna about family planning." Oliver's face brightened. "Really? That's great. I knew you'd come around, Anna." Feeling cornered and outnumbered, I grabbed my coat. "I need some air," I mumbled, rushing out of the apartment. A few weeks later, my return from work was met with another shocking scene. Skylar, in fluffy pink pajamas, was wandering our living room. "What's going on here?" I demanded, my voice rising. Oliver emerged from the kitchen, his stance defiant. "I've decided that Mom is going to live with us. You're always at work, always away. I'm tired of being alone." I was stunned. "You decided without even discussing it with me? When are you ever here to discuss anything?" Oliver retorted. I turned to Skylar, who was watching the exchange with a satisfied smirk. "You can't stay here. This is my home." Oliver's expression darkened. "If you're not happy with this arrangement, you can get out." I felt as if I had been slapped. His words echoed in my head, a painful reminder of how far apart we had drifted. I owned the apartment long before Oliver and I exchanged vows. It was my property, registered in my name. "You can't just kick me out of my own home," I asserted firmly as Skylar stood, her face contorted with fury. She took a menacing step towards me, but I raised my hand, halting her advance. "Don't come any closer, Skylar. If you touch me, I will call the police." Her demeanor shifted abruptly. She collapsed back onto the sofa, clutching her chest in an exaggerated display of distress. "Oh, Oliver," she wailed theatrically. "Did you hear that? She threatened to call the police on me. Your wife threatening your mother. Oh, how she's changed. That terrible job of hers has turned her into a monster." Oliver rushed to comfort his mother, shooting a scathing glance my way. "How could you, Anna? Your mother-in-law." Unable to bear another moment, I retreated to the guest bedroom, locking the door behind me. The night was restless, my thoughts spiraling at the absurdity I was living through. The sharp ring of my phone cut through the morning silence. It was Mr. Grayson, my boss. "Anna, I need you on a plane today," he said, getting straight to the point. "We're ready to move forward with the merger. I need you in Milwaukee, ASAP." Packing was a frenzied blur, and soon I was dragging my suitcase to the front door. greeted by the stone-cold stares of Oliver and Skylar. "I have to go on a business trip," I announced, my voice detached. "It's for the merger. I'll be back soon." Oliver's response was cold and dismissive. "Don't bother coming back at all." The flight to Milwaukee passed in a daze, and I immersed myself in work, grateful for the respite from personal turmoil. The merger required all my concentration, yet in the quiet moments alone in my hotel room, the weight of my crumbling personal life bore down heavily on me. After a grueling week, I returned, emotionally and physically exhausted, longing for the comfort of my bed and a break from the world. But as I tried my key in the lock, it wouldn't turn. Confusion gave way to a sinking realization. I knocked, my heart pounding with trepidation. The door swung open, revealing Oliver and Skylar in casual attire, their faces a blend of smugness and scorn. "Why doesn't my key work?" I asked, my voice a strained whisper. Oliver's laugh was harsh and joyless. "I changed the locks," he declared, his eyes gleaming cruelly. "You can come in if you're ready to choose your family over your precious career." Stunned, I stared at him, really seeing the man he had become. A bitter, manipulative stranger. From his pocket, he produced a stack of papers and thrust them at me with dramatic flair. "Divorce papers," he announced. "It's time to choose, Anna. Your career or your home. What's it going to be?" Skylar's shrill voice interrupted my shock. "Well, we're waiting. Make your choice." Taking a deep breath, I straightened my spine, my resolve hardening. "I choose my career," I declared, my voice steady and clear. "Because I no longer have a family or a husband here, not anymore." Oliver's face twisted in anger, but I felt a profound sense of clarity and freedom. As difficult as the moment was, I knew I was making the right choice for myself. As Oliver thrust the pen into my hand, I signed the divorce papers right there in the hallway, a mixture of shock and resolve setting into my every move. The moment I finished, Skylar grabbed my arm, her grip tight and unyielding, and pushed me toward the elevator. "Good riddance," she spat venomously as the door slammed shut behind me. Left alone in the hallway, staring at the closed door of what was once my sanctuary, an unexpected laugh escaped me. It bordered on hysteria. I had just been evicted from my apartment, the one I purchased with my hard-earned savings. Exhausted and unwilling to cause a scene, I collected my suitcases and headed to a nearby hotel to gather my thoughts. A few hours later, my phone rang. It was Lydia, the realtor, who had helped me buy my apartment. "Anna, how are you holding up?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. "I've been better," I replied, feeling the weight of the day crushing down on me. "Why do you ask?" Lydia hesitated before continuing. "I've seen Oliver's posts on social media. He's saying some pretty nasty things about you." A knot formed in my stomach. "What kind of things?" "He's calling you a soulless careerist who destroyed your family for your job. He claims he sacrificed everything for your relationship, and you just used him and tossed him aside. He's even talking about suing you for alimony. People are really sympathizing with him." Anna, anger surged through me. "That's not what happened at all." "I didn't think so," Lydia said. "Want to tell me your side?" After I shared the events of the past week, Lydia was silent for a moment. Then, with a soft sigh, she said, "Oh, Anna, I'm so sorry you're going through this. Listen, I'm going to set the record straight with our friends and colleagues. People need to know the truth." I thanked her, feeling a lump form in my throat. Her support meant everything at that moment. As I hung up, my emotions were a whirlwind of anger, gratitude, and determination. Oliver might have taken my home for now, but I resolved not to let him tarnish my reputation or my dignity. Just then, my phone vibrated with an incoming call from Mr. Grayson, my boss. His voice was serious, a tone I seldom heard from him. "Anna, we need to talk. I've heard some concerning things on social media." Bracing myself for the worst, I responded, "Sir, I can explain." "No need to explain just yet," he interrupted. "I want to hear your side of the story." Relief washed over me as I recounted everything. Skylar moving in, being locked out, and Oliver's smear campaign on social media. After I finished, there was a pause before Mr. Grayson finally spoke. Anna, do you think I'd believe that nonsense your ex is spouting? He chuckled. I know you. I've seen your dedication and your work ethic. Don't let this affect your confidence. You have every right to defend yourself, and I want you to know that the company stands behind you. Tears of relief pricked my eyes. Thank you, sir. You don't know how much this means to me. A couple of days later, a notification on my phone alerted me to a live broadcast Oliver was hosting from my apartment. Curiously, I tapped on the video link. There he was, all smiles, announcing a major renovation led by the crew from Extreme Makeover, Home Edition, scheduled to start in 3 weeks. Calm yet determined, I picked up my phone and dialed Lydia's number. It's Anna. I need a huge favor. I began as soon as she answered. I need you to sell my apartment fast. Like, within 3 weeks fast. Lydia whistled softly. That's a tall order, Anna. What's the rush? I quickly explained Oliver's plans. Before the film crew was due to arrive, I knew I had to get new owners into my apartment. But there was a problem. Oliver had changed the locks, making it impossible for Lydia to show the place in person. I sent her the most recent photos I had. These will have to do, I said, knowing it wasn't ideal. Lydia laughed, her confidence unwavering. Oh, honey, you underestimate me. I've got a couple who've been dying to find a place just like this in the area. They trust my judgment, and with these photos and the building's reputation, I think I can make this happen. Time flew by, and before I knew it, the day of the big renovation reveal had arrived. I sat in my hotel room, my laptop open, watching the live stream with bated breath. The camera panned across my former apartment, now bustling with an excited film crew, construction workers, and a beaming Oliver and Skylar at the center. We're so excited to start this renovation, Oliver announced, his arm around Skylar's shoulders. It's time for a fresh start, a new chapter in our lives. Just as the host was about to signal the start of demolition, there was a sudden commotion off camera. The door burst open, and a smartly dressed couple walked in, followed by Lydia. I'm sorry, but you can't renovate this apartment, the man said, holding up a stack of papers. It belongs to us now. The camera swung around, capturing the confusion and shock on everyone's faces. Oliver's expression turned from surprise to anger. What are you talking about? This is my home, he protested. Lydia stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. Actually, Oliver, this apartment belonged to your ex-wife, Anna. She sold it to this lovely couple 3 weeks ago. Your signature on the renovation documents is a forgery. The host turned to Oliver, his face livid. You forged documents? Do you have any idea how much trouble you've caused? As he continued to berate Oliver and Skylar, their faces turned a deep shade of red, the scandal unfolding live for millions to see. Oliver's facade crumbled as his lies were exposed. I couldn't help but laugh, feeling a mix of vindication and relief. It was over. I had won. With the proceeds from the sale of the apartment, I made a bold move and bought a charming little house in the city where our company had just completed its merger. It felt poetic, a new home in a city where my career was flourishing. Mr. Grayson appointed me as the head of our newly acquired company, a challenge I was ready to embrace. Weeks later, I found myself face to face with Oliver again, this time in a courtroom. He audaciously demanded half of the proceeds from the apartment sale, plus alimony. I watched with satisfaction as the judge denied his claims, citing his attempt to unlawfully seize my property and the forged documents. As we left the courthouse, Oliver approached me, desperation replacing his earlier bravado. Anna, please, he begged. I'm sorry for everything. Can't we start over? Give our marriage another chance. I looked at him, really looked, and felt nothing, no anger, no sadness, just a profound sense of freedom. I laughed, not unkindly, but with finality. No, Oliver. We can't start over, but I can start anew. And with that, I walked away, lighter than I had felt in years. My career was soaring. I was leading a successful merger, respected by peers and superiors alike. I had a beautiful new home, one that was truly mine, symbolizing a fresh start and new beginnings.
My name is Delilah. I've been married to Milo for almost 3 years now. We both enjoy our current jobs, and although we hope to have children someday, we are currently focused on our careers. Since we got married, Milo has been helping with the house chores, although it's not a strict 50-50 division. He cooks dinner for me when I have to work late, and on his days off, he will do the dishes if I ask him to. I wasn't particularly bad at housework myself, so I thought our marital relationship was just fine with this arrangement. However, lately I've been feeling a bit dissatisfied. It's because Milo has been going to his parents' house very often. We used to visit his parents together occasionally, but recently he's been staying there after work or going alone on his day off. I believe it all started when his father passed away about 6 months ago, leaving his mother alone. Milo's brother, concerned about their mother, moved in with her along his family, but it seems that the cohabitation isn't going very smoothly. At first, I couldn't help but feel immense respect for my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, who decided to live with my mother-in-law out of concern for her well-being. It was evident to everyone that she was deeply saddened, and we all hoped that this arrangement would bring some cheer back into her life. In the early days after my father-in-law's passing, when my brother-in-law and his wife had just started living with her, I would occasionally visit and support my mother-in-law. Gradually, she started regaining her usual brightness, and life began to return to normal. During the time when everyone around us felt relieved, the atmosphere began to change. It seemed that my mother-in-law couldn't shake her tendency to be overly involved, perhaps because she had taken care of my father-in-law's needs for so long. My brother-in-law and his wife have a daughter, and my mother-in-law tried to take charge of everything related to her, as if she were replacing my father-in-law. While my brother-in-law and his wife didn't have any particular preferences, when it came to childcare, my mother-in-law's approach was quite forceful. She would scold and become angry if her grandchild didn't finish the meal she served, and she would confine the child to her room if she didn't comply with her instructions. "Mother, please stop," my sister-in-law would plead, trying to reason with her. "This is discipline," my mother-in-law would argue back. "If she doesn't behave properly, she won't grow up to be a decent adult," she explained. Even when my sister-in-law tried to intervene, my mother-in-law refused to listen. When I first heard about it, I was truly surprised. Was it normal for someone to go to such extremes in the name of discipline? However, I believed it wasn't my place to interfere since I didn't live with them. All I could do was listen to my sister-in-law's tales of hardship. One day my sister-in-law couldn't take it anymore and made a proposal to my mother-in-law. "I'll take care of our family, including our daughter, so please focus on yourself," she demanded. My sister-in-law had never been fond of excessive interference. It must have taken a lot of courage for her to make this suggestion. With my brother-in-law's support, my mother-in-law reluctantly agreed to it on the spot. However, our family home was not a complete two-generation household. There were shared spaces that couldn't be completely separated, making it difficult to divide household chores entirely. As I expected, my mother-in-law started interfering in my brother-in-law and sister-in-law's household chores again. She would enter their room without permission and start doing housework, or even discard their daughter's favorite clothes just because they were old. To make matters worse, she would casually wash and rinse my sister-in-law's nice clothes. My sister-in-law must have felt an urge to express her anger. However, she held back and indirectly told her, "Stop, please." But my mother-in-law responded, "I feel better when I'm doing something," completely ignoring my sister-in-law's feelings. Since then, my mother-in-law has been doing as she pleased. Despite my sister-in-law already planning the meals, my mother-in-law would buy boxed lunches for everyone without permission, simply because she wanted to eat them. I also heard that recently, she had started buying clothes for my brother-in-law and sister-in-law's daughter without their consent. However, the clothes my mother-in-law bought were always discounted items that were no longer in fashion. Their daughter, who had just turned 5 and was developing her own preferences, showed no interest in wearing the clothes my mother-in-law bought. Initially, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law deliberately avoided addressing the issue. "I bought those clothes for her, so why isn't she wearing them?" my mother-in-law would ask, confused. "Well, haha," my sister-in-law would respond awkwardly, trying to keep the peace. "Come on, dress her up quickly," she used to tell her daughter. Reluctantly, my sister-in-law tried to dress her daughter in the clothes my mother-in-law bought, but her daughter stubbornly refused. Frustrated, my mother-in-law made snide remarks at my sister-in-law, adding more stress to an already tense situation. Caught in such a dilemma, my sister-in-law seemed to be accumulating a significant amount of stress. All I could do was listen to her stories. "I'm sorry I can't do more than just listen, sister-in-law," I said apologetically one day. "Don't worry about it," she replied. "Thanks to you, I can somehow keep my spirits up." "Thank you always," she replied. After her words, I continued to listen to her, thinking that if I could be of help in any way, it was worth it. In the midst of all this, an incident occurred. While my brother-in-law was absent due to work, my sister-in-law was asked by my mother-in-law to go shopping. She intended to take her daughter with her, but my mother-in-law insisted, "Don't worry, I'll watch her. Just go quickly." Reluctantly, she went shopping alone. When she returned, she was greeted with a sight that left her in shock. Her daughter's long, beautifully grown hair had been haphazardly cut. "Hey, what happened to your hair?" my sister-in-law asked, rushing over to her daughter in a panic. "Grandma did it," the little girl replied, tears in her eyes. She confronted my mother-in-law, who was in the kitchen. "Why would you do something like this?" she asked her mother-in-law angrily. "Girls become more active as they grow up, so long hair just gets in the way," my mother-in-law replied, unapologetic. Her granddaughter was crying the whole time, and my sister-in-law couldn't help but cry as well, seeing her like that. Just then, my brother-in-law came home, and a fierce fight broke out between him and my mother-in-law. During the argument, my mother-in-law contacted Milo, and he intervened to calm things down. It seemed like they managed to resolve the situation on the spot, but ever since then, my worried husband has been regularly visiting my in-laws. My brother-in-law firmly told my mother-in-law, "Don't interfere with us ever again. If you do something like this again, we'll leave." It seems like my mother-in-law got upset about it once again. My husband is concerned and continues to support my mother-in-law by visiting her, but solving this issue won't be accomplished just by pacifying her. Even from my perspective as a third party, I feel like my mother-in-law is 100% at fault. Perhaps she thinks she's doing things for the best, but sometimes what she does can be a bothersome imposition on others. Unless my mother-in-law truly understands that, this matter will never be resolved. "You have to explain it to your mother properly and make her understand," I told Milo. "Just pacifying her won't prevent the same thing from happening again," I added. "My brother's wife should just rely on my mother openly," Milo responded, clearly siding with his mother. "After all, my mother has done so much for us," he continued. No, isn't it going too far to cut your niece's hair without permission?" I argued, trying to make him see reason. "Well, hair grows back quickly, right?" he dismissed. My husband seems to side with my mother-in-law fundamentally, saying such hopeless things. When I try to suggest that my mother-in-law bears some responsibility, he insists. My mother is someone who acts for the sake of others, and I end up getting scolded. People who act for the sake of others wouldn't go and cut someone's hair without permission. That's what I think, but I decided to stay silent, thinking it'd only complicate things further if I said more. However, no matter how much my husband visits my in-laws, it won't solve anything with the way things are. But with my busy work schedule, I can't go directly to my in-laws' place like my husband does. Still, I grew worried and contacted my sister-in-law, asking her if everything has been okay lately. As expected, the stress for my sister-in-law and her husband has been increasing, and she burst into tears over the phone. "Having Milo come and keep my mother-in-law company is appreciated," she said, her voice shaky. "But I think this issue won't be resolved until my mother-in-law herself changes," my sister-in-law added. "Yes, I think so too," I replied, feeling a deep frustration. In times like these, why can't my husband think beyond the immediate situation? Why can't he empathize with my brother-in-law and his wife's feelings? It left me feeling helpless and frustrated. As I was contemplating ways to help my brother-in-law and his wife, something unbelievable happened when I got home from work. "Oh, welcome home, Delilah," my mother-in-law greeted me as I walked in. "Mother-in-law, why are you here at my place?" I asked, surprised. "I brought her here," my husband chimed in, peeking out from the living room, smiling and laughing with his mother. She seemed uncomfortable at her house, he added. No, this can't be a joke, I thought. He just brought her here without any discussion whatsoever. I turned to my husband, trying to keep calm. Why is your mother in the bathroom? What's going on? I didn't hear anything about this, I asked Milo indignantly. If my mother stays at her own house, her stress will only build up, right? So I thought we should change the atmosphere, he replied, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. But I live here too. We should have talked about this, I said, growing increasingly frustrated with my husband's selfish action. The apartment we live in is meant for families, and there happened to be an empty room which we had turned into a storage room for our child. My husband just unilaterally decided to make it my mother-in-law's room. Irritated, I tried to ask him in a somewhat normal tone, how long do you plan on having your mother stay at our place? Until she settles down, I guess, he answered nonchalantly. Until she settles down? Your mother needs to understand that this isn't a long-term solution, I insisted. Just then, my mother-in-law returned from the bathroom, and we had to interrupt the conversation. I wanted to discuss with my husband what he should do from now on. From my perspective, it's clear that it's important to create physical distance between my mother-in-law and my brother-in-law's family. However, I also live in this apartment. It would be difficult for me if my mother-in-law stays with us indefinitely. But since my husband brought her here, I can't just kick her out. Feeling that things couldn't continue like this, I decided to talk to my husband without my mother-in-law the next day during my lunch break at work. I sent him a message specifying a time and place. I want to talk today without your mother. Let's meet and talk outside after work, I wrote to him. After finishing work, I headed to the agreed-upon place, but my husband never showed up. There was no reply to my message either. I tried calling him, but he didn't answer. Worried that something might have happened, I decided to go back home. To my surprise, my husband was already at home. I couldn't make sense of it, even though I'm usually composed. Hey, I sent you a message saying I wanted to talk, didn't I? Why did you come home first? And you didn't reply either, I confronted him. Huh? There's nothing to talk about, he replied dismissively. Besides, my mother is alone at home. She would feel lonely if I didn't come back soon, right? He concluded. I was at a loss for words. It wasn't a joke. I was completely bewildered by my husband's attitude. I was shocked to realize that he was someone with whom communication was so difficult. My brother-in-law and his wife had been closer to my mother-in-law and had more interaction with her. That's why I had relied on them so much. Since I only visited my in-laws occasionally, I had no idea that my husband was so overprotective of his mother. In the midst of contemplating what to do next, one day I couldn't focus on work and decided to take the afternoon off and go home early. My mother-in-law had mentioned that she would be out with her friends, so there was nobody at home, and I finally had the chance to relax alone after a long time. However, just as I was enjoying my solitude, the intercom rang. I wondered what it could be. Did I order something? With that thought in mind, I opened the door to find several large packages delivered. Milo isn't someone who shops online, and I hadn't ordered anything recently either. It seemed strange, so I checked the shipping labels, and all of the packages were addressed to my mother-in-law with Milo listed as the sender. It was clear to me that Milo was fully intent on having my mother-in-law live with us. I instantly realized it. In the evening, Milo contacted me saying, I made a plan with my mother to have dinner and meet up. Everything suddenly felt absurd, and I could feel my feelings toward my husband cooling off. I had previously wanted to find a solution for my mother-in-law's situation, but all of those feelings had completely vanished. That day, I went to bed without waiting for my husband to come home. The next day, my husband had a day off from work, and he woke up while I was having breakfast. Then he casually said something to me. I think my mother's packages might arrive today, so if they come, please accept them. We are going shopping together with my mother today. Oh, they arrived yesterday, so I sent them back, I said flatly. Upon hearing that, my husband suddenly became furious. Huh? You sent them back? Why would you do that without asking me? My husband questioned angrily. You didn't consult me about anything, and I don't want her living here indefinitely, I replied, trying to stay calm. What did you say? My mother is in trouble. You are so heartless. If you're going to say that, then you should leave, he shouted. Even though he said such things, I was no longer shocked. I left the house as he told me to and headed to my parents' home. During that time, my husband contacted me several times, but the content of his messages was all about apologizing to me and his mother. I couldn't sense even a hint of sincerity in his apologies. It felt ridiculous, so I immediately blocked his calls. Then I gathered the necessary documents and returned to the apartment 2 days later. When I pressed the intercom, my husband came out. "Did you finally decide to apologize?" he sneered. I calmly responded, disregarding his attitude. "I'm coming back to this apartment." Upon hearing my words, he must have thought that I had decided to apologize. For a moment, my husband had a smug expression on his face, and I didn't overlook it. To my astonished husband, I handed over several documents. "Do you remember? This apartment originally belonged to my parents," I began. My husband widened his eyes and clearly showed his agitation. Without paying any attention to him, I continued. "Also, sign the divorce papers. Oh, and if you refuse, I'll ask a lawyer. Don't think you can avoid a divorce by resisting. That's just wishful thinking," I said firmly. "What's going on all of a sudden? You come back and then tell me to leave? Divorce. Don't make decisions on your own," he stammered. "Don't make decisions on my own. Well, let me tell you. What about you? You brought your mother here without consulting me and tried to let her live here without any discussion. Because you kept doing selfish things without my consent, I made the decision on my own," I stated, leaving Milo taken aback. My husband's face turned pale quickly, and perhaps he finally realized the seriousness of the situation. He immediately tried to change his attitude toward me, offering multiple insincere apologies and making various excuses, but none of it affected me anymore. Of course, my decision to divorce him remained unchanged. Seeing my husband panic and scramble, I couldn't help but think, served you right. Maybe I had already lost my feelings for him a long time ago. While pondering such thoughts, I gave him one final warning. "Oh, and stop bothering your brother's family, okay? If that happens again, I'll gladly take their side and make sure you and your mother end up in hell," I threatened. Upon hearing that, my husband slumped down in exhaustion, and the next day, he left with his mother. They returned to their parents' house, but of course his brother and his family had already moved out by then. Now they live together peacefully as a family of 3. I live alone in the apartment now, and my days are filled with both work and personal life. I still maintain a relationship with my brothers-in-law and regularly have meals together. However, I have completely severed ties with my mother-in-law and ex-husband, expressing that I never want to be involved with them again. As for myself, I strive to live a peaceful and happy life, being cautious to avoid similar situations in the future. "Oh, really? Have you actually bought a house? If that's the case, I'd like to move in with you," my mother-in-law suddenly suggested in a completely unexpected and unreasonable manner over the phone. She must have caught wind of our recent home purchase from my husband. I could discern my sister-in-law's amused chuckles in the background. Does she believe her laughter can go unnoticed? Honestly, I have no desire to reside with my mother-in-law and the others. I thought my husband shared the same sentiment. However, the fact that they've been informed about our new house, could it be that they're assuming we'll be living together? The idea that my beloved husband might be in cahoots with them fills me with a bit of apprehension. Yet I have no intention of yielding to their wishes. Are they trying to manipulate me? If that's their game, I'll reverse the roles. Reflecting on all my past tribulations, I pledged revenge against them. I am Rachel Baker, 30 years old, working as an ordinary employee at a major financial corporation. I married my husband Matthew 3 years ago, and though we don't have children yet, there's a valid reason for that, a decision we both took seriously. Matthew and I are fully committed to our careers, toiling daily with the aim of advancing. Once our professional lives stabilize, we plan to build our own home and create a stable environment for raising children. We've agreed to revisit the topic of having kids once our careers settle down. This was a decision we made earnestly, sharing our genuine feelings and thoughts. We do aspire to have children eventually, and now, as we prepare for that, I find myself recalling all my past struggles. Then one day, I successfully executed a well-planned project at work, and my promotion was officially confirmed. While my salary was already sufficient, the promotion brought even more comfort to our lives. On the other hand, Matthew, although not promoted, received a substantial salary increase due to his years of service. With both our incomes on the rise, I felt it was time to turn our long-held dream into reality, so I broached the topic with Matthew. "Matthew, I want to talk to you," I said. "Over the past year, both of us have had stable incomes. I think it might be time to consider getting our own home." "What do you think?" I inquired. "Oh, is it time already?" he replied. From his excited voice, I could tell Matthew was thrilled. "Actually, I've been thinking about it too, but since I haven't been promoted yet, I felt a bit hesitant to bring it up," he continued. "Don't worry about that. It's not like only one of us needs to earn money. I was thinking it might be okay to build our home in my name," I suggested. "Really? Well, you do earn more now. If you're okay with it, let's build our home in your name," Matthew agreed with me. "All right, let's proceed with that. Let's go see some model houses on our next day off," I continued. "Sounds great. Let's go. We shouldn't miss this opportunity," he added. I really feel grateful for choosing Matthew at times like this, as we share the same values. The following week, we made an appointment to view model homes as planned. We looked at various types of houses, expanding our vision for our own home. On weekends, we began creating simple floor plans together, researching online. During a recent visit to a construction company, they suggested that instead of leaving everything to them, it's better if we create our own image for a more satisfying home. So Matthew and I started building that image. However, neither of us has much knowledge of architecture or design. Even with research, it takes time to put it into practice. While taking breaks, we continued working, and then the doorbell rang. I thought it was a delivery, but when I opened the door, my mother-in-law was standing there. "Unexpectedly, huh? Mother, what brings you here so suddenly like this?" I asked, surprised. My mother-in-law sometimes visits our place without notice. She glared at me and without a word took off her shoes and went into the house on her own. "I'm here, Matthew," she called out. "Huh, Mom, what's up?" Matthew showed a startled reaction. "Did you have some business around here?" he added. To Matthew's question, his mother looked a bit perplexed. "Yes, I told Rachel about it over the phone a little while ago, but it seems you didn't know," she explained. "I see. Maybe Rachel forgot to tell me," my husband replied. "Seems like it. Rachel, even though she's still young, has a terrible memory," my mother-in-law said wryly. "That's not true, Mom. It's not forgetfulness. Rachel is incredibly busy with work, and at the same time she takes care of the household. Her mind is always full of things to do," Matthew said, defended me. "You're such a kind boy, Matthew. If your late father were here, he definitely wouldn't have forgiven that," his mother concluded. "I really respect Rachel from the bottom of my heart," he answered her and asked, "So, Mom, why did you come here today?" To Matthew's question, his mother smiled contentedly. Then she slowly took out a travel brochure from her bag, spread a page with a post-it note on the table, and showed it. "Listen, Matthew, I've always wanted to go to Niagara Falls. Won't you take me, please?" Caught off guard by the sudden request, both Matthew and I were left staring at her, mouths agape. My mother-in-law, relentless, kept pressing Matthew, who was clearly flustered. "Come on, Matthew, you agree, right? Think of it as a way to show filial piety," my mother-in-law insisted. "Wait a minute, Mom. I'm in trouble if you suddenly say you want to go on a trip," Matthew stammered. "Though you can come too," she interrupted him. "Actually, I was thinking of going with your sister, Sophia, but if you want, I'd be happy to turn the trip into a family one," Matthew's mother added. "What are you talking about? Rachel is here, and I can't get time off from work, but it's strange for me to pay for a trip for you and my sister, right?" my husband argued. "Not strange at all. Spending money for the family is a wonderful thing. Don't you think so, Rachel?" she retorted, suddenly turning to me, seeking my agreement. Though shaken, I firmly expressed my opinion. "Well, using one's own money for family isn't bad, but I think imposing it on others is different," I uttered. "What do you mean by that? Are you saying I'm trying to extort travel expenses from Matthew?" My mother-in-law was outraged. I didn't mean to say it in such a harsh way, but listening to you, it sounded like you just wanted us to pay for the trip, I replied. Rachel, that's terrible. I had no such intention, but you're making me out to be the villain in front of Matthew. I'm so shocked. She sounded offended. I didn't mean to call you a villain. I just answered honestly to what was asked, I responded. Okay, no need for excuses, Rachel. Why are you so heartless? You must not like me, do you? She asked. My mother-in-law, visibly upset, glared at me with icy cold eyes. It always turns out like this when she comes over. She always finds some reason to demand money, and then squanders it with Sophia, Matthew's sister. Spending money for the family sounds nice, but what my mother-in-law does is practically extortion. The situation is entirely different when Matthew gives them money out of kindness. No matter that they're family, I never really liked Matthew's brazen mother and sister. According to Matthew, his mother and sister became so selfish after his father passed away. Matthew's father died when he was in high school, and since then, they have lived as a trio. While his strict father was alive, he watched over the finances, but with his departure, there was no one to stop them, and they even freely spent the life insurance money. Also, since Sophia works part-time, not as a full-time employee, her salary is low, and their life is always on the edge. So this is why she regularly visits our house, making excuses like, life is tough, or, I want to relax and travel somewhere, to extort money from Matthew. Before marrying Matthew, it seemed he was at the mercy of his mother and her demands after his father's death. A sense of dependence for being cared for by his mother had bound Matthew. However, since marrying me, Matthew seems to be gradually realizing their true nature. Even when repeatedly asked for money, recently he's been trying hard to refuse. For Matthew, that's quite a growth. Moreover, he has recently become able to speak back firmly to his mother. To my mother-in-law's spiteful words like, "You don't like me, do you?" Or, "Why should I for such an uncharming daughter-in-law?" Matthew responded clearly, "Just because you're my mother doesn't mean you can speak badly of Rachel. Didn't Rachel just answer what you asked her, Mom?" He questioned in a firm voice. "You're taking Rachel's side," she said, looking hurt. "What are you talking about? I think you're in the wrong here, Mom," he continued. "That's so unfair. Surely Rachel must have poisoned your mind against me. Poor thing. You were such a kind child before you got married," my mother-in-law continued, trying to manipulate my husband. "I'm telling you that's not it. I'm saying this because I think so," Matthew insisted. Matthew's firm response surprised my mother-in-law, who was not used to being talked back to like that. With a frustrated look, biting her lower lip, she said, "Fine," and left. "I'm sorry, Rachel. I always make you feel uncomfortable," Matthew apologized softly. "No, it's okay," I replied. "You stood up for us this time. Once we build our own home, we'll be further away. Let's not interact with Mom and them," I offered. "Yeah, that would be a relief. If you're okay with it, Rachel, I'm grateful," Matthew said with a nod. The place we were considering for our new home was quite far from our current apartment, improving the convenience to both of our workplaces. Our current apartment was about 5 train stations away from Matthew's parental home, but the new house would be 3 times farther and require transfers. The route from the station was also complex, so if we didn't give them the address, they wouldn't be able to find our new home. It was a good chance to cleanly break off our relationship with my mother-in-law. Later, we submitted our imagined floor plan to the construction company, and construction started 2 months later. After about half a year, our $500,000 dream home was completed. We managed to squeeze some time from our busy work schedules to pack a few days before the move. As I was packing, I received a call from my mother-in-law on my smartphone. Busy with the boxes, I turned on the speaker and answered the phone. "Hello?" I said. My mother-in-law started speaking in an unusually high-pitched voice. "Rachel, when are you moving? You bought a house, right? I want to live with you." Suddenly she began to say such an outrageous thing. She must have heard about our new home purchase from Matthew. I could hear Sophia, my sister-in-law, chuckling in the background. "That's great," Sophia laughed. "We can make Rachel work for us every day. Mom, you came up with a good idea," she added. Did they think their words weren't reaching me? It was clear they planned to piggyback on our move, imagining they could use me for an easy life. Honestly, I had no intention of living with them. I thought Matthew felt the same, but telling them about the new house, could it be that they're assuming we'll live together? The thought that my beloved Matthew might be in league with them filled me with a bit of fear, but I had no intention of letting them have their way. They're probably trying to use me, right? If that's the case, I'll turn it around and use them. I told them the date of our move. Then my mother-in-law and Sophia said, "We'll come to the apartment in the afternoon on that day. Take us with you in the car and arrange the movers for us too." They hung up after making their demands. But of course, I had no intention of complying. For now, I'll check the facts with Matthew. As I was about to go and tell him, he was already standing behind me. "Matthew, you were there," I said in surprise. "I came to say we should take a break, but was that Mom on the phone just now?" he asked, his face serious. "Ah, yes. I was going to talk to you about it too," I began. "Why did you tell your mother about our new home?" "It's not like that," Matthew said defensively. "Actually, when Mom came over last time, she seemed to have seen the floor plan of our new house. She kept pestering me about it every day, so I just—" "Rachel, I'm really sorry," my husband tried to explain. "I see. So, you don't intend to live with your mother, right?" I asked carefully. "Of course not. After hearing that phone call, I'm even thinking it's better to cut ties with her," he responded. Matthew's expression was filled with more anger than ever. It was the first time I had seen him this angry. From what Matthew told me, my mother-in-law had seen the layout of our new home and was convinced it was a spacious house. She had pretended to be interested and called Matthew repeatedly, asking him about the number of rooms and details of the facilities. But it seemed that Matthew was on my side, which relieved me. "Then there's no problem at all," I said, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. This made me determined to get my revenge on my mother-in-law. I've had enough of her saying whatever she wants, but it's goodbye to that now. I'll make sure to settle this properly. And so, the day of the move arrived. Matthew and I had the movers transport our things in the morning and headed to our new home in our car. By the time we finished moving everything, it was already past 1 p.m. Checking our phones while taking a break, we saw dozens of missed calls from my mother-in-law. "She called me too," Matthew said, sounding weary. Then my mother-in-law called again. I answered the phone with the speaker still on. "Hello?" I said. "Hello, Rachel. Where are you?" she demanded. "I told you I'd be at the apartment in the afternoon, didn't I?" Matthew's mother continued. Yes, you did say that," I replied. "So what can I do for you?" I added. "What do you mean? You didn't arrange for the movers?" The mother-in-law was perplexed. "I've been waiting at home and not a single truck has shown up. So I had to go to your apartment myself," she finished. "Is that so? Well, that's too bad. You know I didn't arrange for any movers," I replied. What? That's not the agreement. Where is your new house?" she snapped. "Huh? You really think I'd tell you?" I said clearly, my voice unwavering. My mother-in-law uttered a dumbfounded "huh." She probably thought that as long as Matthew was there, she could always have her way. But Matthew is different now. He's my precious ally, trying to cut off the bad ties with his family. Determined to release all my pent-up feelings, I spoke firmly. "Just to let you know, neither Matthew nor I have any intention of living with the two of you from now on. Please don't involve yourselves in our lives," I concluded. "What are you saying? Your opinion doesn't matter. It's up to Matthew to decide. At least tell me where the new house is right now," my mother-in-law demanded. "Huh? How are you going to get here without even knowing the address? This house is in my name. I have the right to decide who lives here. If you two just barge in, it's trespassing, and I'll sue you right away," I explained without holding back my emotions. "What? Trespassing? How rude to say that about your husband's family," she retorted. At that point, Matthew spoke up in a deathly cold voice. "Family? My father, who was a family member, is already gone, isn't he?" "What are you saying, Matthew?" his mother asked him. "After hearing that last phone call, I'm utterly fed up with you two. Just having a blood relation with you is embarrassing. From now on, my family is only Dad and Rachel. I no longer consider you two as my family," he replied. "Wait, Matthew, don't say such things," my mother-in-law begged him. "Don't bother us again, got it?" Matthew uttered angrily, and hung up without waiting for her reply. He swiftly set his phone to block her calls. Hey Matthew, are you really okay with this? I asked, concerned. Yeah, I finally realized that Mom was just using me to her advantage. I feel completely relieved now. Matthew looked truly refreshed, sincerely believing what he said. That's how we, as a couple, managed to cut off the bad ties with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. Afterwards, they had to change their lifestyle drastically, as Matthew stopped supporting them completely. Without any contact with Matthew, they lost their fallback option. Later on, my sister-in-law's part-time income wasn't enough, and my mother-in-law had to start working part-time as well. Being a housewife for so long, she wasn't used to the working environment and was clumsy, often being disliked at her workplace. Meanwhile, we live a peaceful life in our new home, with no sudden visits from my mother-in-law anymore. We are truly stress-free. I'm endlessly grateful to Matthew for believing in me and cutting ties with his toxic blood relatives. We might face various challenges in the future, but even then, I trust Matthew, and we will support each other and walk through life together.